first time the legislature's been fully back since the pandemic started. We all know that the pandemic has affected so many people, so many lives, has rocked our economy. We also know that with the murder of George Floyd and the deaths and murders of other Black Americans across the country, the issue of police brutality and institutionalized racism are front and center for many Oregonians right now. So it's a real privilege and an opportunity for state legislators to be back, to be working on responses that we need to take statutorily for the COVID pandemic, as well as being able to take up a first string of issues to address police reform. It is only the beginning. And we are glad we have this opportunity to get the conversation started very robustly right now. This is a unique situation, having to legislate in a pandemic. We are following a lot of public health protocols, which you saw on the floor today. The issues that I think are of particular importance, there's a lot of technical issues, but in terms of important issues for Oregonians, the extension of the governor's moratoriums on commercial and residential evictions, as well as a bill to help protect homeowners with some additional foreclosure protections, kind of a complementary piece to the eviction moratoriums that we are seeking to extend for a limited amount of time. We know housing, keeping people housed in this economic situation, particularly as our employment department still struggles to get benefits to people. We need to keep people housed and do the best we can to keep people stable in this pandemic. Cases are going up. We are still in the midst of this, and we need to do everything we can to help keep people stable. We certainly want to get back to the other issue of rebalancing the state budget. We expect to be back in session, I would expect before the end of July, to work on those issues, hoping to see some help from the federal government to help us rebalance our budget. We're in better shape than many state governments, but we have a very significant budget deficit, and it would be helpful to know where the federal government is before we institute cuts for the second half of the biennium here for our two-year budget. So a lot of work to do in the next couple days, and I think members are very focused and they're here to do their work, and look forward to taking your questions. Mr. President?
So the Senate gavel came down at 8 a.m. this morning, and just a few minutes later we had a quorum and we organized. There was very little commotion. This is not an emergency session. This is not a special session. I told this to my colleagues. This is a catastrophic disaster session. There's no question about it. It is the 42nd special session in Oregon's history. We're still doing research with LPRO, but we believe that no legislative session in the history of Oregon has ever been asked to do so much for so little time. And to be frank with you, some of these bills have not been vetted the way they should be. And there is an uneasiness about that. But when you're in this kind of crisis, you got to move. You got to move, and you hope you do the best you can. You hope you're trying to deal with a monster disease that just won't let us out. That's a line used in A Perfect Storm. The disease won't let us out. It just when I think we've done something, we got it. There's an explosion someplace, Eastern Oregon, Marion County, Lincoln City, with this disease. She just won't let us out. Then you have this crisis. And I once said to my parents, and I still believe it because where I came from, we have never recovered from the Civil War. And what is going on is effects of that. And I also explained to the Senate something, and I had forgotten this, that we reached out to the state of Mississippi 4 or 5 years ago during their legislative session. And I reached out to the Black Caucus, and they said, well, we're going to introduce bills to redo our flag. So you wait, because out of respect, we waited. It didn't happen. So we took down the state of Mississippi flag in March of 2016. Very quietly, no fanfare, no press release. We took down that flag. I know quite a bit about the Confederate flag, since I had a roommate who decorated the entire wall with the Confederate flag. I'm very familiar with the flag. And I really, I struggle. The flag really affects me when I see it. So the state of Oregon, in their own little way, did that without fanfare. So we've got a catastrophic disaster. but it's our time. The executive branch is on the sidelines, the judiciary is on the sidelines. Some of us have been trying to get on this field since March. We've been trying. We tried with a special joint committee on the virus. It did extraordinary work, bipartisan, came out with incredible recommendations, but we couldn't get on the field. So we limped along with some e-boards. We did some pretty good work with some e-boards. This is our first time in this crisis that the legislature is on the field. And this is our time. This is our time. Will we measure up to it? I do not know. But it's beyond historic. If you're not here, it's sad because we're already getting confused by the blue arrows. Coming off the floor today, how do we get to the second? It's very confusing. We got to do it. Many rooms are marked in ways they've never been marked before. X marks the spot. So, you know, we're being challenged as human beings, physically, how to go places. We are being asked to stop the crisis in our state regarding discrimination. We're being asked to get a hold of this virus in ways that no one's gotten a hold of now. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. And we've been asked to do something about these small businesses across this state that are being destroyed. We have also been asked, if we rank, to open the schools, find a way to open the schools, to do something in the fall. We have been asked, if you look at the bills, that's all that's out there. It's remarkable. So will we do it? I don't know. We had a good day on the Senate floor today. There were no votes on things, but they weren't bad no votes. They weren't mean speeches. People made great speeches. So we're not supposed to come back on the Senate floor at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. That bothers me. That's not the way I function. I want to come back this afternoon, but there's all kinds of things going on around here. So will we measure up? Well, you're going to have to wait and see, and I'm going to have to wait and see. So that's my statement.